My name is Joanna Raico Binaid from BSE English 1A, and I am here to discuss about four topics from Module 2 to Module 5 of the Child and Adolescent Learners and Learning Principles. Let's start with Module 2, Human Development, Meaning, Concept, and Approaches. What is human development? Human development is the overall pattern of movement or change such as physical, cognitive, psychosocial, that begins at conception and continues through the lifespan. Both qualitative and quantitative, that includes both growth and decline, which means that development can either be positive or negative. But human development is different from growth. Growth refers to changes in physical attributes of a person. It starts with conception but ends at some particular age. There are two approaches of human development. First, the traditional approach. It emphasizes extensive change from birth to adolescence, little or no change in adulthood, and decline in late old age. The second one is lifespan approach. It was developed by German psychologist Paul Baltes. He believes that even in adulthood, developmental change takes place as it does in childhood. There are 6 key principles of the lifespan approach. First, development is lifelong. Number 2, development is multi-dimensional. Number 3, development is multi-directional. Number 4, development is plastic. Number 5, development is influenced by contextual. And this development has 3 types of influence that operates throughout the life course. First, normative age graded. Second, the normative history graded, and the third one is the non-normative influences. And the last key principle is development is multidisciplinary. And there are some major principles of human development. Number 1, development occurs in a relatively orderly sequence. It means that the pattern of development is likely to be similar. There are 2 patterns of development. First, the cephalocaudal pattern. It is the greatest development that occurs at the top of the body. The second one is the proximodistal pattern. It means that the growth starts at the center of the body and moves towards the extremities. Number 2, the outcome of developmental process and the rate of the development are likely to vary among individuals. Number 3, development takes place gradually. And the number 4 and the last one is development as a process is a complex. Human development is a process that cannot be compartmentalized into any one domain. It is the product of biological, cognitive, and socio-emotional processes. And also, there are 12 principles of child development and learning that inform practice. Number 1, all areas of development and learning are important. Number 2, learning and development follow sequences. Number 3, development and learning proceed at varying rates. Number 4, development and learning result from interaction of maturation and experience. Number 5 is early experiences have profound effect on development and learning. Number 6, development proceeds toward greater complexity, self-regulation, and symbolic or representational capacities. The number 7 is children develop best when they have secure relationships. Next, development and learning occur in and are influenced by multiple social and cultural contexts. Children learn in a variety of ways. Next is play is an important vehicle for developing self-regulation and promoting language, cognition, and social competence. The number 11 is development and learning advance when children are challenged. And number 12, the last one, children's experiences shape their own motivation and approaches to learning. We're done with discussing the module 2. Let's start discussing the module 3, which is the stages of development and the developmental tasks. The developmental task is the one that occurs predictably and consistently at or about a certain point in an individual's life. Its concept posits that in modern societies, human development is characterized by a long series of activities that individuals must learn throughout their lives. While some of these responsibilities arise throughout childhood and adolescence, others do so into adulthood and old age. The characteristics of developmental tasks. Having Hurst considered the many various aspects of a person's life that influence a person's development. First, the individual's biological development and physical structures. Second, the society in which the person's lives and resulting cultural influences. And the last one, the individual's personal characteristics, values, and goals. There are sensitive periods which Havighurst refers to as teachable moments. It is when an individual is mature enough to learn developmental tasks. There are three sources of developmental tasks. First, physical maturation. The second one is sociocultural and cultural influences. And the third one is personal values and goals. The next one is the period of development and developmental tasks. There are 6 periods of development, but first let us start with infancy and early childhood. It is from birth till 6 years old. The developmental tasks that they need to achieve in this age is first learning to walk, learning to talk, learning to take solid foods and to control the elimination of body waste, learning sex differences and sexual modesty, forming concepts and learning language to describe social and physical reality, and lastly, getting ready to read. The next period of development is the middle childhood, which starts at 6 years old to 12 years old. In this stage, they are learning physical skills necessary for ordinary games, building wholesome attitudes toward oneself as a growing organism, learning to get along with age mates, learning an appropriate masculine or feminine social role. Next is developing fundamental skills in reading, writing, and calculating. In this stage, they also develop concepts necessary for everyday living, developing conscience, morality, and the scale of values, achieving personal independence, and lastly, developing attitudes toward social groups and institutions. The number 3 is adolescence, which starts at 13 years old up to 18 years old. This is the stage where they start to achieve new and more mature relations with age mates of both sexes, achieving a masculine and feminine social role, accepting one's physique and using the body effectively, preparing for marriage and family life, and preparing for an economic career, achieving emotional independence of parents and other adults. Next is acquiring a set of values and an ethical system as a guide to behavior, developing an ideology. And the last one is desiring and achieving socially responsible behavior. The fourth period of development is early adulthood, which starts at 19 years old to 30 years old. In this stage, they are the developmental tasks are first selecting a mate, second achieving a masculine or feminine social role, then starting a family, rearing children, managing a home, getting started in an occupation, taking a civic responsibility, and lastly, finding a congenial social group. The fifth one is the middle age. That starts at 30 years old to 60 years old. In this stage, they are achieving adult civic and social responsibility. Next, establishing and maintaining an economic standard of living. Then, assisting teenage children to become responsible and happy adults. Developing adult leisure time activities. Relating oneself to one's spouse as a person, and accepting and adjusting to the physiological changes or middle age. And lastly, adjusting to aging parents. The sixth and the last period of development is the late adulthood, which starts at 60 years old and over. This is the period of development when they start adjusting to decreasing physical strength and health, adjusting to retirement and reduced home income, adjusting to death of a spouse, and establishing an explicit affiliation with one's age group. Then, meeting social and civil obligates, and lastly, establishing satisfactory physical living arrangement. There are also other periods of development that was introduced by Lally and Valentine French in the year 2019. And these are, first, the prenatal development. It starts at conception, continues through implantation in the uterine wall by the embryo, and ends at birth. Next is the infancy and toddlerhood. It starts at birth and continues to 2 years of age. The third one is the early childhood. It starts at 2 years of age until 6 years of age. The next one is the middle and late childhood. Starts at 6 years of age and continues until the onset of puberty. Then the adolescence. It starts at the onset of puberty until 18 years old. The early adulthood starts at 19 years old until 29 years old. Number 7, the middle adulthood. It starts at 30 years old until 60 years old, and the late adulthood that starts at 61 years old onward. Now that we are done with the module 3, let us move on to the module 4. It is the issues of human development. Human development has 4 theoretical issues, and these are nurture versus nature, continuity versus stages, stability versus change, and lastly, the active versus passive. And let's discuss it one by one. The first theoretical issue is the nature versus nurture. Scholars have carried on the nature versus nurture debate for decades. Those on the side of nature would argue that heredity plays the most important role in bringing about that feature. Those who are on the side of nurture would argue that one's environment is the most significant in shaping the way we are. This debate continues in all aspects of human development, and most scholars agree that there is a constant interplay between the two forces. Next, the next theoretical issue is continuity versus discontinuity. Stage theories or discontinuous development is this theory assumes that developmental change often occurs in distinct stages that are qualitatively different from each other in a set universal sequence. That means that a person has to go through stages in their human development. Stage theories are the theories of Freud, Erikson, Piaget, and Kohlberg. The next one is continuous development. It is different from the discontinuous development. Continuous development, the behaviorist Vygotsky and the information processing theorists assumes that development is a more slow and gradual process. And that is the difference between continuity versus discontinuity. The next theoretical issue is stability versus change. Stability implies that personality traits present in childhood and persist throughout life, whereas change theorists contend that interactions with family, experience at school, and acculturation shape personalities. They believe that child's personality and characteristic bear a little resemblance to the characteristic present in adulthood. The last theoretical issues is the active versus passive. Active beings are prime determiners of their own abilities and traits. Piaget, for instance, believed that children actively explore their world and construct new ways of thinking to explain the things they experienced. In contrast, many behaviorists view humans as being more passive in the development process. Passive beings whose characteristics are molded either by social influences or biological changes beyond their control. And that is active versus passive. And that is the end of the module 4, which is the issue of human development. The last module that we're going to discuss is the module 5, which is the research in child and adolescent development. According to Cochrane, Smith, and Little, in the year 2009, research primarily should serve two purposes for educators and teacher education in general. Number one is enhancing one's practice and knowledge of teacher education. And number two, adding to the larger body of information on teacher education. Classroom teachers as researchers. Teachers are researchers. Every day they gather massive volumes of data which they quickly analyze and use to inform decisions. Teacher researchers are innovators, curriculum developers, advocates for institutional change, and managers of their own professional growth who seek to learn from what happens in the classroom. And there are 5 impacts of teachers' participation in research on teachers. First, educators who have participated in research may become more self-reflective, analytical, and critical in their instruction, and open and committed to their own professional development. Number 2 is participating in teacher research also enables educators to make more thoughtful decisions and take more strategic actions in the classroom. Number 3, the professional dispositions of lifelong learning, reflective and mindful teaching, and self-transformation are developed by teacher research. Number 4, participating in teacher research at any level may cause one to re-evaluate and reconstruct what it means to be a teacher, which may have an impact on how instructors interact with children and students. And lastly, the number 5, teacher research has the ability to show current and aspiring educators that learning to teach and learning to inquiry are interconnected. Teacher participation in teacher research demonstrates a shift in thinking about teacher research from something done to teachers to something done by teachers. And that is the Module 5 of the Child and Adolescent Learner and Learning Principles. That ends our discussion for today, and thank you so much for watching and listening, and have a great day. Thank you so much.